I'm the pre-health advisor. If I can get the peanut gallery back there.
Yes, Stu.
Stu is talking in the back of the room with the ladies. I think he's flirting. Anyway, I'm the pre-med and pre-dental advisor, sometimes called the pre-health advisor. So I am Dr. Smith. Those of you that are interested in med school, many of you are. Some of you know a lot better than others, and some of you are already into the process. Jocelyn's already been accepted. Anybody else in the process of applying? Maybe. So, anyway, Jocelyn's the AED secretary, so she's taking notes. We have Red over here manning the video camera, and he will videotape you, Dr. Brown, and you'll be on the internet. But anyway, we're glad that you're here tonight, and we have with us Dr. Scott Brown. I'm not being disrespectful because I've known this young man ever since he was in high school, so he's like one of my own. In fact, he went to high school with my oldest daughter, and so he and I had interacted back then, and then he went off to med school and sort of dropped off the planet, and then he's back here. He is now practicing with Blue Ridge Orthopeadics, which is just down the road on 123 between here and Seneca. In fact, Chad right there is doing an internship with him this semester, and so we're fortunate to have him with us this evening to give you a little bit of an idea of what he does as an orthopedic surgeon. He went from Seneca High School. He's a Seneca High School graduate. His mom, he doesn't like me to tell this, I don't know. You don't care. His mom was a professor here when I first came 30 years ago. This is my 30th year here. But his mom was a professor in biochemistry and a legend in her own time. If you wanted to take a good course of biochemistry, you took his mom. So she has since retired, but still live in the area. Yeah. And but anyway, he's here in Seneca. He went to MUSC to med school. He went to New Orleans for his residency, and he's now back here practicing in private practice with Blue Ridge Orthopeadics. And he's been here 8 years. 8 years. I keep saying 8. Why am I saying 8? 5 years. 5 years. He's married. Can you imagine somebody marrying this guy? Anyway, she's a lucky girl, I guess. I've never met her. Yeah, I met her once. So anyway, there is a real person that goes with him. But, we've been to dinner and we didn't have wine or beer or anything. I don't know what's wrong with him. But he's got 2 kids. I'm telling all kinds of things about him. And but you have a little girl and a little boy, is that right?
5 and 3.
5 and 3. But he's going to tell. I'm stalling. I'm thinking, that some people are going to stall, but I guess we're ready to go. So with no more rambling, I'll turn it over to Scott and let him share with you. I think he's got some show and tell stuff, and I think he's going to talk with you a little bit here at the beginning, and hopefully at the end we'll maybe have some time for questions and answers. Okay? Does that sound good?
That's good.
All right.
Alrighty, so like you said, I grew up here, and as a 5 and 6-year-old was riding rolly chairs up and down the Jordan and long hauls, waiting on mom to finish up. Went to Furman for 2 years, then transferred back to Clemson for 2 years, MUSC for 4, and then matched in Tulane down in New Orleans. Did not do any fellowship training because I was tired of the process, ready to get out and get started. That would have added another 6 months to 2 years on to the rest of the training. So I knew that I wanted to come back and practice where I could practice pretty much the whole scope of orthopedics. And usually you see in metropolitan areas such as Atlanta or Greenville, people are further subspecialized and only do certain joints or knees or certain procedures. And I knew that I wanted to do a little bit of everything, and the stuff that I couldn't handle either have somebody in my own practice that could handle it or send it on to a further specialist. So some of the other specialties in orthopedics are pediatrics, oncology, sports medicine does a lot of knee and shoulder scope work, ACL kind of stuff. Total joint replacement, either for hips, knees, shoulders, elbows. There's spine, where you're doing fusions, taking out discs. Pediatrics does a good bit of spine with their scoliosis deformities. There's trauma, where you're doing more of the major pelvis reconstruction surgeries, long bone surgeries, such as, if you're at a tertiary care like Greenville or MUSC, you're getting the multi-traumas that come into the outlying hospitals and transferred in for you to fix. So I want to do a little bit of, and there's also hand, which does the smaller, more intricate surgeries. Other orthopedics call them hand weenies, but because they deal with bones that you can swallow, which aren't really considered bones. I like to do a little bit of everything. What I like about orthopedics is that in medicine, it's one of the few specialties that the patient, when they finally are leaving your office, are often better than when they came in. Whereas other specialties that are dealing with blood pressure or pushing pills for diabetes or whatever, they're just managing a problem that they're always going to have. And when somebody comes in with an arthritic joint, hip or knee, sometimes they can hardly walk. Some of them can't even walk to Dr. Smith's office down the hall because their knees are in that bad a shape. They have to stop 2 or 3 times before they can get there. And when you're done with them, they're able to walk as far as you or I could, allowing as long as their heart and lungs would allow for that. Or even just a simple carpal tunnel release, where every night their hand is causing them their hand is going to sleep and causing them to be numb and painful, where it wakes them up and they haven't had a good sleep for months. When they come back to that first visit with me and they say, it's totally gone. Certainly it hurts where you made that incision, but I can sleep now. And just to have that kind of effect and profound change in people's lives, and for people to appreciate what you do, it's rewarding for me as a surgeon. So I also picked the practice here because it's where I grew up and my parents are nearby, and a lot of the time that I spent in med school at Charleston or down at Tulane in New Orleans, and I'm away from my parents, the whole time I'm there, I'm seeing people come in that are younger than my parents' age, and they're not leaving the hospital alive. So, it made me appreciate the fact that they still are alive, and I wanted to spend some of their last years with them, and to be able to come back and do that and live literally down the street from them has been rewarding as well. But the benefits of my practice is that it's somewhat considered rural, but we have an amazing group of 6 guys that take care of, actually it's 2 groups, one in Clemson and another group in Anderson, that are under the same name and started out we are a single practice, but we kind of function individually as far as the patient populations that we cover. They cover the ANMED and we are covering Oconee. The nice thing about it is that there's 5 of us taking calls, so I'm only on call once every 5 nights and once every 5 weekends, roughly. And so it allows for a lifestyle that I get to spend time with my family and kids. And it's not a real busy trauma center that I'm up all night, every night I'm on call. Usually I'm getting called in when I'm on call till roughly about 12 o'clock, and then usually it calms down. There's an occasional night that I'm up working all night. But somebody during residency likened my personality to a dairy farmer, where you don't begrudge the work of getting up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning and going to milk the cows. It's just part of who I am and what I like to do. So I enjoy getting up and taking care of people, and if it's in the middle of the night, that's when it happens. And so they're usually appreciative that, unless they're drunken idiots, that sometimes that happens to them on the right as well. But usually they appreciate what you do as far as taking care of them. So I do the gamut from total knees, total hips, arthroscopy of several joints, elbow, ankle, shoulder, knee. Usually arthroscopy is where you are clearing out or cleaning up something. Occasionally with arthroscopy you're reconstructing things like the ACL ligaments of the knee. And then you're doing your general fractures, be it your wrist or your humerus or femurs, tibias, and ankles are often fractured as well. So the things that I generally don't handle are spine fractures and pelvic fractures. Generally, there's more time involved and usually require a little bit further training for people to feel comfortable handling that. And I think that nowadays where the general orthopedic surgeon used to do all of that, now that medicine has gotten more subspecialized, most people leave pelvic fractures and doing spine cases to subspecialized orthopedists. So one of my favorite cases is total knee replacement, and I've brought some instruments to perform a total knee for y'all to perform the total knee on the sawbones. But before we get to that, are there any questions about what I do, or any questions that y'all have about orthopedics that sort of my life that I haven't covered yet?
Scott, tell them how long it takes to do a spinal surgery usually. What's the average length of spine?
Spinals, I would say usually those are sort of 2 to 3 hours. But what Denny is relating to is last semester when I came and talked, somebody said, "What's one of your longest cases you've done?" And in residency, when you were working with a traumatologist who's doing pelvis cases, sometimes those cases can run 18 hours. As you start them on the front, you open them up, go to back, you open them up, fix them in the back, and then go back to the front and fix them. So, yes?
Can you explain a little bit more like what a traumatologist does and what they do?
They are trauma-trained orthopedic surgeons, and generally they are fixing people that are involved in trauma, such as car wrecks, falls off of buildings, or what have you. And there's more complex fractures that they enjoy taking care of, like that 18-hour pelvis. No way do I want any part of 18 hours standing up all day fixing that pelvis. And usually those more complex cases are going to go to your tertiary care. So you're going to find your traumatology orthopedic surgeons or your trauma-trained orthopedic surgeons usually at tertiary care centers like Greenville or MUSC, if they want to do that work. Now, that being said, Emily here in the room, her father is my partner, and he is a trauma-trained orthopedic surgeon. So they deal with more complex fractures. A, your pelvic fractures, but B, the people that have 2, 3, 4 limbs that require surgery all at the same time. And when you get that sort of volume of numbers of fractures, they are